IDEE, organ meat pork knocker, because you have to have a goblin name. And we would do random acts of harmless vandalism, we'll put it like that, and pranks. And the person with the best prank gets to be the leader for the next year. But it has to be at a major event. So as far as I know, I'm still the queen. Got it. Meeting's being recorded.
How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah, doing well.
Yay. So there's some faces I don't recognize. I think Balto, you're one. I don't recognize your face. Where are you from?
I'm new. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay. Well, welcome. Is that your game name or do you have a go by a different persona?
It is my game name, Balto. Yes.
Okay, cool. And let's see who else. Chelsea? I don't think I recognize you.
I'm Cersei O. I'm in Grim Garrison too,
Oh,
but I started
welcome.
right before the pandemic hit, so
Gotcha. So,
completely virtual so far.
newbie all the way. Let's see. I got Sierra.
You're all newbies to me.
Yeah, Sierra is probably one of the longest standing players that I know.
Vasa's older than me, though.
He's been playing longer. He's
been
older
playing
too.
since he was 15. No, he's not older than me, but he's been playing Amtgard since he was 15.
Okay.
So he'll be 50 soon. So yeah, a long time.
And
Wheelock and I started about the same time.
Gotcha.
I guess Arison too would have started about the same time.
Yeah. All right.
I've
so
only been playing since 1999.
Well, I'm definitely a newbie. I've been playing since 2016. 2015, sorry, 2015. I was thinking 2016. So I'm going to give it just another minute or two. I know it's just after 8 o'clock. And I want to first thank you guys for attending. Make sure that I've got to get Buddy to help me create an event on the orc so that we can get these attendances in. But in the event itself, if you can, I'll create a sign-in thread really quickly. If you can sign in, and let's put that here. And it doesn't have to be in this order necessarily. But let's do this. So I have been at work since 8:30 this morning, our time, and when I'm done here, I have to go back. And it's gonna be a long week. It's gonna be a long day. So. All right, so if you guys can go ahead and sign in. Excuse me, that is up.
Tell me what to look for. This newfangled technology, I don't know nothing about it.
I will
What am I
tag you,
looking for?
Sarah, so that you can see it. There you go. All right. That was awesome. All right. So yes, if you guys can go ahead and sign in, and I'm just waiting for,
Oh, this. Okay.
I'm waiting for
So we're
one
doing
more.
it on Facebook.
Yes. I don't know how to do
Okay.
it on Zoom, and that way I've got a record of it over there and I can get Buddy to pull it from there to help me out. Apparently the region, even though we're responsible for events, cannot create events in the org. So, which
That's stupid.
makes no sense. So you get that never-ending loop where you log in, you go to the create the event, you put all your information in, you hit save, and it sends you back to the sign-in screen. So, all right, I'm waiting for one more person, my partner in crime. I don't know where he is. I mean, I know where he is. He's right in the other room, but I want to mute you guys for a second and yell.
On Facebook, under the write-ups, how to do's don'ts, and you would put your name and Winter's Edge for your kingdom. I forget. Are we Sylvan Glade? I forget.
Yes.
And pass. There. For once, I can't sign in for you. I know.
Okay. And I think away we go. So I'm going to start with, as you guys are lined up on my screen. So this is in no order of importance, and it's going to seem like it's alphabetical at first, but it's not. So I'm Belle. I am the regent of Winter's Edge currently. I am from Sylvan Glade, and I've been playing for about almost 6 years. And I am pro, like all about ANS. I don't fight. I rarely get on the field, if ever at all. I am colored to the core, and it is all about ANS for me. So the next person on my screen that I see is Balto. So Balto, you go ahead and give it up.
Okay. Hello, I'm Balto. I'm in Rising Winds, and I've been playing for 3 months, so brand spanking new. Trying to get involved in just about everything. So yeah.
Well, welcome. All right. Chelsea, you're next on my screen.
Hey, I'm Cersei Oleandrin in game, and I am in Rising Winds 2. I joined right before the pandemic started, so my entire in-game career is virtual. I did some online ANS tournaments, and my write-ups were really shaky. So when y'all put this class up, I was like, hey, I need to know this. So hi.
Hey, all right. So next on my screen is Gabo. No, not and no cursing. Remember, we're at Amtgard.
Didn't not that you could hear it anyways. Hi, I am Alaric Gabo Goldenbow. I am Bell's man at arms. I've been playing for 6 or 7 months now, so kind of a newbie as well. I fight, but I'm pretty much focusing on ANS a lot because I'm working on getting my Serpent Belt with Bell. So yeah, hello.
All right, next one, Godric.
Hey, I am Godric. I've been playing for a little over 10 years now. I really enjoy ANS in general. I do fight quite a bit too. I love both aspects, but I am from the Freehold of Tyrant's Thorn, and we are here very shortly going to be petitioning to join Winter's Edge. And so my goal is to kind of see how the ANS culture and the write-ups could potentially differ from what I'm used to. So super excited just to hang out and learn.
Awesome. All righty, Hayden.
Woo, here's my not mundane name because I have to leave it on that because of school. I'm Hayden White Wolf, Sam Miller, if you can't tell there at the bottom. Let's see, I've been in Amtgard since 2014. Since then, I've kind of been stuck out in a freehold. Let me hand this to her mother. She's gonna be squeaky. That is my pandemic ANS project. But I've entered in a couple Dragon Masters here and there. I'm glad I killed y'all. And I've gotten up to 4 owls, and I've kind of just been stuck at the 4th owl because of not being able to get handed stuff. But a lot of my projects I tend to look at are in my 3D printing stuff, particularly with construction with weapons and in regards to that. And I'm really just kind of looking at this class to do my write-ups a little better because that's been my main issue, I feel like, is my write-ups kind of suck.
Well, welcome, and hopefully we do you proud tonight. Sierra.
Hi, Sierra Cadamus. I've been playing Amtgard for 22 years. Yeah, there's like a bunch of titles, Lady blah, 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 Master Rose, Master something else. Lots of dragons, lots of garbers and other stuff. So I've actually judged a lot of ANS competitions instead of entering them, including an Olympiad, which is the Inner Kingdom for all Amtgard Kingdom big master ANS that most people do their master work in. So I've spent a lot of time judging and reading write-ups, but I also do, in real life, I do art and stuff. So, but yeah, that's kind of why I'm here, I guess. Plus, you know, even after 22 years, you can learn something. I'm always trying to learn something. So hopefully I'll learn something new tonight too.
Yay. Awesome. And her other half, Vasa.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
I had mute on my headset too. So I'm Vasa. I make things. Sylvan Glade. I've been a part of a few other kingdoms, and it's always good to see how things are changing, and write-ups are a big part of that. So I'm here. Why?
Welcome. All right. Next on my list is Obscura.
Hey there, I'm Obscura Unlimited. Let's see, I've been playing since 2015. I've judged a lot of Park and Kingdom ANS, especially since the pandemic, and done Region on Park and Kingdom level as well. Sorry, I have my video off because I'm currently working on a project that I've got to get out by the end of the month. So I'm multitasking as we go, and really happy to be here.
Well, thank you. All right. Canary.
Hello, I am Canary. I am with Winter's Press of Winter's Edge, soon to be with Mystic Seas and Black Spire Kingdom. I have been in Amtgard. I wasn't really known very well back then for like at least 10 years, but just recently for the past 2-3 years, maybe I've started like slowly getting recognized, I guess. I don't know. I don't really push to try to get recognized or anything. I love art. Been doing art since I was young. I've been doing a lot of Garber. Everything that I've done is basically self-taught. I've not been taught by anybody. I've recently just started doing scrolls for people. I've never done scrolls, and I've been doing scrolls back to back nonstop. But I have participated in, not really in the Dragon Master, but I did want to see what it was like, and I surprised myself, and I should have participated because I got third and fifth place. But I just like to see different styles of write-ups and stuff like that. From what I'm used to doing and such. So I like to see what's going on.
All righty. And my next one is Tempest.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Hi, I'm Tempest. My pronouns are she, her. I've been kind of playing for the last couple of years, and I've never entered any Kingdom tournament or anything like that. And yeah, I'm from Winter's Press as well.
Well, welcome. All right. She thought she was going to sneak in. Dawn, you're next on my list.
Hi, I'm Dawn Starlight. I'm from Radiant Valley. I've been in Amtgard since 2002. I started in Florida. I have done a lot of garbing, some dragon work. I'm starting to work on owls. I've judged, I want to say I've judged a Dragon Master, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But I've done park level and kingdom level tournaments.
Well, welcome. And then I have Sijin.
Hi. So I'm pretty new. I've only done a couple, about 3 write-ups ever. The last one was very last minute, so it was very hard to write because my writing is very sloppy, especially in arm bracers. I am currently working on an Earth Kingdom outfit for Coronation. So that's been fun. I actually am laying out the fabric as we speak. So I'm gonna be a little less vocal, but just know I am paying attention, I promise.
Oh, welcome. And then I did save because he was late, even though he had some technical difficulties. My other half, I'm not going to say better half because sometimes he is and sometimes he's not, Kokare.
More than sometimes. She's way better than I am. Kokare Golden Bowl, the regent of Sylvan Glade. Been playing about almost 7 years. Other than a couple of very, very, very short breaks where I got dragged back to be Pro Tim, I've basically been Monarch 3 times, 4 times. The rest of the time I've been Regent at my park. Getting ready to run for Kingdom Regent, and I noticed recently that my write-ups are what's keeping me at the level that I'm at. It's just something that I picked up on, so I've tried some new things lately, and that's about it. Hopefully they'll make the difference, because I've basically got all 7s in everything except for garb, because I can't sell. But yeah.
All right. So I'm going to start out with a basic rule of thumb. If this, wait a minute, where it goes. If this is your write-up, I don't know if you can see that, the whole notebook. If it's a novel, you're doing it wrong. If it's a post-it note, you're doing it wrong. Too much, too little, not good. And kind of what I wanted to talk about and what we found with our most recent coronation ANS is that people don't know what to put in their write-up. So we're going to talk about categories. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts, the different things that you may want to include, the things that you shouldn't include, and some common pitfalls that people have. And then I'm going to ask, because we've got some really strong people here who've been for a while. So Godric, you're a knight, and Vasa, you're a knight. Sierra, you're a squire, but you're like that close to being a knight. Kind of, that's how I look at it. In my eyes, you are a knight. So I'm going to ask that you guys, along with the rest of us who have judged, that as we talk about things, I don't want to be the only one talking. I definitely want questions. I want to hear your feedbacks. Let's give everybody the different flavors, okay? And I'm going to start out with format. And your format should always contain your category. So what category are you putting it in? Now, some ANSs, they have specific categories, some don't, but you absolutely want to say, if you want this judged as a dragon, make sure you put that it's a dragon. If you want it judged for owl, make sure you put that it's owl. Now, mind you, once you get into this competition, you may have someone that's running an ANS and sees that you submitted this beautiful tunic that's well constructed and has a gorgeous piece of hand-drawn, hand-stitched applique or embroidery, and you've entered that in garb. That does not mean that you can't still get a dragon award for it. It doesn't mean that if you entered it in dragon that you can't get a garb award for it. So I want to make sure that you understand, in our kingdom, as far as we are concerned, and it has been, and Obscura, you've been kingdom regent, so, and I think that you mirror this with me, is that just because you enter it into a category doesn't mean that that's where it has to stay. And they may work with you to say, I think you would be better suited over here. You want your item name. What did you call it? You don't need something that's 100 words, but you don't want it something so basic as sword. Find something a little bit creative to go with it. If it's a new technique or something like that, you can say new technology weapon, new technology garb, those kinds of things. You want to list your materials, all the things that you used, down to if you absolutely use a glue gun on your garb, make sure that you disclose that. It's frowned upon to use on your garb unless you're using it for decorative purposes. Don't use it for construction. If you are doing a culinary piece, you have to put your ingredients. You don't have to put that it was a teaspoon or a cup or something like that, but you have to list out your ingredients. If not, you will be disqualified, because you may run into a situation like we had at coronation where we had a judge that was allergic to strawberries. And the person that did their write-up said that they used strawberry. It was in their title, so that was a good thing, but she didn't list her ingredients. So that can be a problem, especially for people who have allergies or gluten intolerance, or for religious reasons can't eat certain things. Like there are people out there who can't or won't eat pork. You want to include your process. And part of that process is the why. Why did you do this? I felt like it. You might want to leave it out. But if you were inspired by a photo, or you were inspired by an action that you saw on the field, or somebody else's garb or something like that, put that in your process. Your tools, you don't have to put tools in there. If you want to, it's okay to do that, especially if you're using something that's out of the ordinary. Obviously, if you're making garb and you're saying this is a hand sewn piece, people are going to know that you used a needle and thread. If you did not, they're going to know that you sewing machine, that you used a sewing machine. Those kinds of things, you can pull it out if you want to, but it's not necessary. And then as far as pictures go, if you have and I'll use owl as an example. If you have a weapon that you've created and it's new tech, and it's 15 layers of a new kind of foam, you can show the inside of that core of that weapon to show that it was how you did it. But if you glued 15 layers of foam together, you don't need 15 pictures of first layer, second layer, third layer. Just it's a waste of time. Keep it brief, keep it simple is kind of what we go for. Anybody have any other things that, as a judge or doing write-ups, you guys have seen that are included that might be cool, some things that should be avoided, or anything to add to what I just said?
Yeah, I'll add something. If you can, make sure you type it up. I think that is I've seen a lot of people, the judges can't read handwriting, or they can't read your diagrams. And if you have access to a printer, which most people do now, print your stuff up. I think that goes a really long way to just looking better. And I agree with the picture thing. You don't need a bunch of pictures if it's something that's pretty basic. If most people are going to understand what you're doing, you don't need to include pictures.
So that is one of my things. Neatly written if it's not typed, and make sure that you check your spelling and your grammar. And you'd be surprised the difference between from and form can really set you off. And sometimes I've actually submitted a write-up myself that I had an atrocious write-up. Instead of I took the shot, I had a mistype in there, and I was approached by a judge after and said that I made them laugh hysterically when they read my feces comment. And I was just like, what? And yeah, so make sure that you do not just use spell check to rely on from the computer, but read through it yourself as well. Gabo is going to laugh, and he's not going to let me live that down. But yeah, I
always have.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Always have somebody else read your write-up. You're going to miss something. Spouse, friend, whatever, have somebody else read your write-up. And I mean, I write stuff. I have stuff published, and I have had some spectacular fails because I'm also dyslexic. So there are things that I don't see. Plus, English is not my first language. So there's things that I don't see that Vasa will, because he's an English lit major. But there's stuff he's written up that I've caught too. So always have somebody read over your stuff. If you think that there is going to be any question, as a judge, I don't want to find you and ask you a question, and I will give points off if it's not in your write-up. It's just the way I am. If you think that somebody's going to have a question, go ahead and assume that they will and put it in your write-up. Don't automatically assume that people know your process. Sometimes dumbing, it sounds like an insult, but it's true. Dumbing it down and making it not overly complicated. Do not use tech speak. Some of us don't know your technical terms. If I have to look it up, I might give you half a point off. If I have to look up what you're telling me and you haven't explained it in a way that is simple for a normal person to understand, then you might get a half a point. You know, if we're allowed point, like partial points, we'll take it as a judge. So that's my input on that.
All right. Anybody else?
I wanted to agree with everybody else had said, especially if it's something that you want to make sure your point comes across, give your write-up to somebody that doesn't know your process or doesn't know anything about your art form that you're submitting, and get them to read it and see if they understand it. Definitely get another set of eyes on it anyway, just for spelling mistakes. And my favorite write-ups are the ones that make me laugh, or the ones that make me feel something. So if it has, you know, this was inspired by something, or if it was for someone because of something, or even I think one of the ones that we judged at the coronation, in their materials they put brain power, and that just tickled me at the moment. And it will take you, a judge, out of that judging aspect of I got to get this stuff done really quickly to I need to pay attention to this because this might have more humor in it. And I love that.
Definitely. One of the things about the flow is you want to make sure that you're not redundant, and you want to make sure that it flows with how you've done your piece. So if you've made a shield and the cover, you want to talk about the shield and the foundation first before you get into the cover. If you're going back and forth between the shield and the cover, even if you were working on the cover while the glue was drying for the shield kind of thing, you still want to make sure that you do all of the construction first and then all of the decoration on it and the finishing touches. Overcomplicating or writing too much, that's not necessary. And I want to clarify that it's not necessary. It won't get you attention from the judges. What'll happen is the judge will look at your write-up and they'll start to read. And if it's something that they can read quickly and easily and understand and it flows, they're going to keep reading. If it's wordy and they're trying to figure it out, a lot of times they kind of will skim it and skip it. So you want to make sure that, especially remember what I said, if you're doing it this way with a binder, it's too much. And you want to make sure, usually I've heard people say try to, without pictures, keep it to a page, but there are some things that I know if you made this, like Coquer had done a gâteau, which is a multi-layered, multi-textured cake. And it's an opera cake. And that process you can't do in one page because there are so many different techniques to doing it. But he was able to fit it into about a page and a half, and then the pictures were at the end. And there were references to see the picture here, see picture there, and then we put them all at the end. I helped him format his write-up. And I think that helps too, because the judges won't miss what you've written. And if they need a reference, then they can go to the pictures at the back. If they don't want to look at the picture at the back because they're seeing it in front of them, then it's, you know, it's pointless to put a picture. Now, online is different. I will give you that. Online, you want to be able to show those pictures and things and those details, because as a judge, if I can't put my hand, if you did a really cool French seam and I can't put my fingers on it and see it and see how that is and how your stitches are, what ends up happening is I'm like, I'm not going to give you those amazing points because I can't see it. So you want to make sure when you do online stuff that you absolutely, you want to put those pictures in and get those details. The next thing I have is don't make excuses for your flaws. If you have flaws, don't make the judges go find them. If you have a reason, especially a lot of us travel for these events, if it got damaged in travel, you can put at the bottom, of your write-up, bring a pen, damaged in travel, talk to the coordinator and stuff like that. But if you royally screwed something up, let's say that you did a piece of furniture, because furniture is allowed in construction. And say you did a piece of furniture and your holes are misaligned because you made a mistake. You want to say, I misaligned the holes. The judges will appreciate that. But if you say, I misaligned the holes because in medieval times, they didn't have a way to make things symmetrical, so I made sure to do it that way too. The judges are going to know that's a bunch of bull. That's a lie. Don't lie. Don't make excuses for your flaws. Own up to them and say, I screwed this up and I could not fix it. The judges will appreciate that a lot more. I'm seeing some head nods from those of us who have been around and judged. Another
Can
one.
I add something to that real quick?
Sure.
I would, most of the time, I don't even point out my mistakes because I have found that 75 to 80% of the time, the judges won't find the mistakes either. And so if it's something egregious, like in your example, missing the hole, I will put that in. But most of us are our own biggest critics. And so if I point out on the armpit of my garb here, you can see that I accidentally missed a stitch, or my sewing machine did this and it made a mistake here, and I notice it and I'm going to see it every time, the majority of your judges won't notice it. And so don't draw attention to the negative sides of your piece. Allow your write-up to show the good things, and the judges might find the bad things. Don't point out your mistakes unless you absolutely have to, in my opinion.
Agreed. But at the same time, if you don't point them out, or you do, either way, if you know those mistakes are there and the judge goes and points them out in their feedback to you, don't get upset with the judge because they pointed out a flaw either. So there's that balance there. You still have to understand that the judges are volunteers, and feedback is not there to bring you down. It's actually the opposite. It's to lift you up so that you can improve for the future, because that's the whole point of progressing. Especially, I love seeing when somebody says, I tried this for the very first time. I've never done this before and I tried it. And it could be the most sloppy thing I have ever seen, but they tried, and that gets points for me. For me as a judge.
That's an absolutely good thing to add to your write-up too, because you can have a master garber, but never try to, oh goodness, crochet something in garb. So you've been sewing the whole time, and this is your first crochet entry. Absolutely put that in your write-up.
Some of the ANS runners ask you to include what level, and I didn't put that in the format because I personally don't like that. I don't want to be biased as a judge to the level that somebody has in a ladder, because just that. I have my ninth dragon, and majority of what it is from culinary. And if I want to be judged on culinary, then great. But if I submit something that is sculpted for the first time, and I know I do sculpted cakes, so just bear with me here. I can see the look I'm getting from Gabo and some others of you. But I don't want to be judged on the work that I've done. If you're a garber, Hayden, your wife does amazing peyote stitch and other beadwork. It's gorgeous. And if for the very first time she tried to hand sew and applique a tunic, I don't want to judge. That should be judged based on a 1. So I don't like that. If you want to include it, you can. Some of the runners require it. I personally don't like it, but if they do require it, or you think that hey, they may go look. Sierra's a good one for this. She'll go and look to see what level is this person. If you don't disclose that this is your first time, it can absolutely awesome. It can sideline you. It can cause issues. So make sure you point those things out.
It can also get that item disqualified, depending on what the item is you're submitting to judging. Prime example is one of Vasa Squires does amazing leather tooling, and he made a terrible piece of armor. First attempt at making armor, the tooling was amazing. The armor was garbage and would not have passed for armor. And they were going to disqualify it for armor because that's the category he put it in, was armor. And it turned out he really wanted the tooling judge, not the armor. First attempt. So lucky for him, the judges were lenient and let him recategorize his ANS in the middle of the ANS because it was also his first ANS. So yeah, that would be a good example, I think.
Most definitely. Something that you just mentioned, it flashed and then it kind of went away, and that is how my brain works, but hopefully it'll come back again. Oh, I know what it was. If you, let's say that you're entering, and I'll use the tunic and applique as a great example, or hand embroidery. If you're entering a piece, make sure that your write-up points out anything that's accompanying that piece that is not to be judged. So if you made a dress and you put a belt on it, and you only want the dress to be judged, not the belt itself, make sure you put that. Do not judge belt. Not mine, didn't make it. It's for accessory purposes to show how it gathers only. Make sure you point that kind of stuff out. Cocaire pointed out, excuse me. Cocaire had pointed out that he submitted a bow, like archery bow that he had made, and he put arrows to go along with it. And he had to put in his write-up not to judge the arrows because they were old, they weren't very good, they were his very first attempt, and he wanted the bow judged. But from an accessory perspective, he put it all together. So that's something you want to do. Same thing is, if you do want just that applique that you did or that hand embroidery judged and not the actual tunic, make sure that you put that in your write-up, that this is this item only. And that should be in your item name right at the top. It should be like the very first thing in line that says this is this only. All right. Anybody else have comments or anything about that?
Yeah, I'll add the adding the bow or the arrows to the bow and things like that is super smart to do. If you can get a mannequin and add accessories to it, even if you didn't make it, just put that you didn't make it, but it makes your overall presentation look really, really cool. And so if it will add a little bit, it won't take away anything. So if you put 10 minutes of thought into it, oh, how can I make my presentation look better? I know this is a write-up class, but they're very similar. You can, like the arrows or the belt, you can add those little things, and those are really nice touches that don't take a whole lot of effort that will help set your stuff apart from other people. You're muted.
My very first ANS competition was not outside of park. I had done a couple at park, but one of the things that I was told is make sure that when you do it was a culinary item, make sure that in your write-up, you do your process and do the why, and also make sure that you display it properly. And I was like, okay, well, I'm doing basically an apple pie crisp. And instead of doing just one and giving the plates, I made them all in the little 2-ounce or 4-ounce jars so that they were all individually wrapped, and I had them all pretty. And I actually got on my feedback that I did not put in my write-up why I made them smaller for the judges. And I'm like, oh, really? Like, so for me, even though I won, I was very excited. I had won my first culinary, and it was, for me, it was an eye-opening experience because I made sure certain foods you want to serve differently. So a slice of cake you're gonna do differently than maybe a casserole or something like that. It's those kinds of things that are important. All right. Let's see, make sure I'm looking at my notes. One copy. So I've seen where people walk in and they have like 6 different copies of their write-up. It's not college, it's not high school. You don't need multiple copies of your write-up. You need one neatly presented. A lot of times if you are, I've heard, if you're going to go to Olympiad, you want to have that write-up maybe in a report cover or stapled. You want to have it so that it's all on the front page, not flipped. You don't have to turn that write-up over, those kinds of things. Whether you're at Park, at Kingdom, or at Olympiad, unless you get some serious feedback about your write-up, you can take that same write-up and take it with you, because when you enter at Park, you can then enter the same item at Kingdom. You can enter the same item at Inter-Kingdom Olympiad. That's allowed. Now you can't go from one kingdom to the next and one park to the next with the same item unless it's there's like, what is it? Is it 50% or 60% change to your actual item before you can resubmit it at the same level? So make sure you do it nice and neat the first time. It doesn't matter how many copies. If you want to make 5 copies for you, that's great. You only need one to go to the write-ups. Keep in mind, if you are having anything that's going to get wet, make sure that your write-up is not on paper that's going to bleed, because if you go to, and I've had it happen, Obscuro knows, I printed my write-ups on inkjet paper and it rained, and part of my write-up got wet and it just smeared, and my orchid got destroyed in the rain. But you know, hey, it happens. So things like that, just keep in mind humidity and moisture and all that kind of stuff. So that's all I have.
Wind.
Go ahead.
Wind is another one too. If you put it on paper, it could be blown away. Oh,
yeah,
making sure you take that into consideration too.
Something that you can bring something to weigh it down.
Clipboards are great and cheap.
Yes. And those
Dollar
little
Tree frames.
I don't think I have any here. I did, but when you were in high school or college, they had those little plastic report folders that have that, like they have like that little plastic thing that slides up the side. I like using those because it keeps it protected. It gives it a little bit of weight, but even those can still blow away. Clipboards is another one, even if you put just a plastic sheet or something over the top of it. All right, that's all I have for the actual write-up itself until we get into like the different categories, because one of the things that we talk about is everything. Not all pieces are the same. Not all write-ups are going to be the same. So do we have anybody have anything to add so far about where we've been and what we've done?
I actually had one thing that I'm struggling with myself, and I'm trying to get it to help me, is actually a piece of advice that came from Kaya in Northreach, is to keep a notebook with you while you're making your entry, and take notes as you go. You know, that will help you write your process later, because basically it's already wrote down. You just got to transfer it to either better handwriting or type it. And I struggle because I don't like to stop. I like to keep going once I start. But I actually did that with one entry, and it did slow me down. It helped me process what I was doing with my entry. take my time that way, as well as list my process, because sometimes you'll get through with your entry and then have to look back at like, oh crap, what did I do here? How did I put this together, especially if it's something intricate. So that's something I'm struggling with and trying to get better at. And it's been very helpful so far. I just have to take the time to stop and write it down is what I'm struggling with. But that's something I thought that was interesting. That could also be helpful for you guys later on too.
Awesome. So I don't know if everybody saw it in chat, but Godric posted a link to these stand-up, they're heavy duty sign holders, and they're really, really cool.
And
And
they're
they
kind of
last.
expensive. Yeah, they're kind of expensive, but if you make it once and then, or you make that purchase once and then you can use them tournament after tournament. And my goal is to keep my write-ups to one page. And so this forces me to do that. It keeps my stuff succinct, because if I have something longer than that, then my stands don't work.
Yeah. And it made, I'm thinking about it, and you could even do something. I had done similar when I had done the orchid. It broke in transit, so I ended up not being able to use it. But the way that I displayed the orchid, it was in its little jar, and I made it look like it was sitting on an end table. And I had a picture frame, Dollar Tree picture frames, and unfortunately, I bought the cheap one from Dollar Tree. Like the 25-cent Dollar Tree ones, and it broke, so I ended up not being able to use it. But I like that idea. It's really cool.
Now, one thing you do want to keep in mind, though, every kingdom does their A&S write-ups different. You know, some want a page, some don't want anything longer than a page. I've been in some kingdoms that they want your A&S write-up on a 3x5 index card. You know, so you want to check with your kingdom or check with the event coordinator to see how they want that write-up and be able to tailor your write-up to their specifications.
That's good feedback. And every competition could be different. And I know, Godric, you and I had talked a little bit a couple days ago, or maybe even weeks ago at this point, but what's different? And I know that, like, when we do our A&S, we do by category, and there are some kingdoms that don't do that. It's just a free-for-all. You enter your items. And I kind of like that, and I kind of don't. I think that like it because it focuses and doesn't box you into what you're doing. But at the same time, you could have somebody, let's say for a Dragon Master, you have somebody that enters 10 of the same type of thing that they do versus somebody else who enters 10 different types of things across the board. And so I'm kind of tossed between whether I like it or not so far. But it was kind of cool. So I like, and Obscura, you're keeping a notebook while doing your entry. You may decide, and Coquer is good for this. How many of you, show of hands, and I'll know, and you can use the little, I think you can use the reactions if you're not on camera. How many of you have at least 2 started and unfinished A&S projects currently that you're not currently actively working on? Yeah.
Yep. Called out.
I am too. Trust me.
Stop looking at me.
I've got a whole room behind me, and I've got a whole room 2 in front of me of stuff that Coquer and I have not finished. And,
now, there's no need to yell at me, okay?
Yeah, no. So that's a good thing, because you may start something and then go back to it and finish it off, and then you go, wait a minute, what did I do here? So having that notebook. Now, do you keep, when you're done, do you keep it in the notebook, or do you leave the notes, you tear it out and leave it with the piece?
Her suggestion was to keep it in the notebook, so if you ever want to recreate it again, you know what you did. And then also make notes of this didn't work, or this did work, or try this way different next time.
That's
See, and
cool.
with that, I use OneNote on my computer because I have it on my
Same.
computer, my phone. It links to both, so I can do something over here in the garage, put it on my OneNote. It's on my computer. I can go through and touch it up later on to make sure that it looks good. You know, and that's been a big help for me.
Yeah. And also if you log into your Microsoft account, it's retrievable forever. I have ANS stuff from 20 years ago on OneNote still. So and I've been
Yeah.
through lots of computers since then.
I went through, I redid this room to turn it into an office slash craft room. And I found some of Cocaire in my own old write-ups. And I was like, oh, this is awful. Or, well, that was actually pretty good. And then I went, wait, I submitted this thing? Like, I don't even remember making this item. I remember like the item now, but I didn't remember entering it into ANS and having something like that. Or when Cocaire had to submit a write-up for how he does a bow, and we had to redo the whole thing because he didn't have it. So yeah, I like that idea. That's cool. And it helps with your write-up, like pull things out of that note. Awesome. All right. Any other
And
thing?
if people have
Yeah,
questions too about how write-ups work or how a write-up should look, you can give them examples too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm notorious for forgetting my write-ups, especially when I'm traveling and we're nowhere near home. So a crayon and a napkin is a thing for me. So you definitely find a way to make sure you bring your write-ups with you. Don't put the work in and then forget them.
For sure. And two things that I put in my write-ups that I have found 50% of judges don't care about, but it's never been a negative, but then some judges do care about, and it gives me bonus points. I always put in how much time I spent on the thing. Some judges don't care about time spent because if it took
Care
you
about that.
I care about it a lot.
Yeah, I would give you extra points depending on the time spent. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
as a judge, I'm the same way. But some judges, I wouldn't say a lot, some judges don't care if they care about the end product. If it took you 10 hours or if you're really good at it, it took you 3 hours, it doesn't really matter. But I found I add that, and about half of the judges really like that. The same thing on the other hand, I always put the retail value of it if I'm selling it. If it's a tunic and I say I can get $150 for this tunic if I sell it, some judges don't care about that at all.
I don't care about that at all.
Yeah. Some judges don't care about that at all, but other judges are like, oh, that's bonus points, or a cost of materials. You can put that in there too. This project cost me $40 and took me 10 hours. It adds, for some judges, adds a little bit of a bonus flavor to it, where some judges don't care, some it kind of does. Those are just two things that I add to all of mine.
Yeah, the material list, I will tell you, if in previous judgings, material list and time spent on an item, bonus. I don't care what you can sell it for. As far as I'm concerned, it's going to be used by somebody in AmpGuard. It adds flavor anyway. But yeah, cost of materials, time spent is never wasted. 3 judges, 2 of them will want to know that anyway.
Yep.
Hey, Carrie, we can't hear you.
That's like that's like the consistent thing. I'm gonna just put out there, ignore Gabo. Apparently, behind the scenes, Cocaire is torturing him. So if he's not laughing at me, he's laughing at Cocaire behind the scenes because he can't focus. Yes, I know it's you. So for those of you who are newer and not you, Cocaire, how do you guys feel about what you've heard before we continue on? How do you feel? Do you feel like it's been informative so far? Do you have any questions or anything like that thus far?
I feel informed for the most part, but I do have a technical question. Whenever it's one piece, but there's like multiple pieces to it, do I have to do a write-up on each piece? Because I've got a lot of firsts for me coming. I've got cloth armor and leather armor, hopefully, coming, and it's all going to be one piece, or at least one outfit, just multiple pieces. So I have to do a write-up on each and try not to make it too long.
Hayden, you got your hand up.
All right, so each piece, if it can be entered into a separate category, do so. You know, I know it's supposed to be like a whole outfit, but since especially with you, Sigyn, you have your first piece I saw was probably one of the most fantastic garb pieces I have seen in years. And
Thank
this
you.
is not me. This is not me like to hype you up. This is legit for real. Like, okay, the first guy I played with, Sir Puddin, Master Garber, that's what he has his knighthood for. I've seen pieces done by people like Canary, Dawn, Fiddles, Valkyrie. And yours just blew me away with how well it was done. I did not realize you were beginning. This was like your first piece in it. For each of those things, the armor, the cloth, the cloth and the leather, I would maybe see about trying to get them in different areas. But for the leather, definitely enter it under Owl. If you're doing like a tunic or a dress or something, enter that under Garber. Just try to find different things. If you do like a coronet, or maybe not coronet, but some kind of headpiece, enter that in under accessories. Try to get as many of those categories as you can, especially with Dragon Master being in February. All right, I'm going to chill.
Thank you.
It can be a benefit to have them all together, but it also can be a boon. I've seen that both ways with entries. I would try to separate them as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that if the piece, let's say that you did an adorned chain, and I'll use that as an example. The adorned chain, it probably should be all one item of the chain. But if you did a brand new, never seen before, couldn't find, you've looked everywhere and you couldn't find this chainmail pattern, and you made it yourself, you want to call attention to that pattern by itself. You don't want, and then say that the adornment is something basic or something that you've copied from somebody else's pattern. You absolutely can do two different pieces. The dress and cloak that you did, Sigyn, at Coronation, we actually looked at that piece. You only did one write-up, but for me, the dress was one piece and the cloak was something different. So I really, and you did an exceptional job with those. So I think that in that case, you probably could have split it out.
Something to think about here too is the tournament format. Some ANS tournaments will limit the number of items that you can enter. So say you can only have 5 entries or something like that. I'm going to be much more likely to enter a bunch of things as one entry if I am capped like that. Whereas from my understanding, Dragon Master in Winter's Edge, you can enter as many things as you want. Correct?
Depends on the tourney runner.
You're muted again.
I was unmuted and I muted it to talk. Usually it really depends, like Obscura said, it depends on who's running. Like when we did Coronation, Cocaire limited it to only 2 items per category, per person. So in that case, if Sigyn was going to do 2 dresses and the cloak, then yes, the dress and the cloak together is one piece. But if it is unlimited, then yeah, I think depending on the expectation of how many entries versus judges we're going to have is usually how the people who are running make their determination. You don't want your judges to be there all day, all night, and not be done judging. Or what'll end up happening is, and I've seen it and I've experienced it, where you start out in the morning and you get in there and all the stuff is ready. At 9 o'clock you go and you're going to start judging, and you take 5 or 10 minutes per piece, and then you realize that, well, crap, court is in an hour and I've got 10 pieces left, and that means that I only have 6 minutes per minimum, or I've spent 10 or 15 on other pieces, and it's a struggle that to find that balance. But you don't want, you don't want 200 pieces to be entered and only 3 hours to judge. That's not fair to you judges either. So yeah, does that answer your question, Sijin?
Yes, it does. Sorry, I had to find the mute button. I'm on
That's
my
okay.
phone.
Well, apparently I can find it too well, and you. All
You
right.
keep running away from me.
Well, I actually read up on the Dragon Master. You can enter up, it says usually like at least 5 items. You can at least do 2 in each category. If you do more than 2, that's fine, but they're only going to count the 2 highest to your score. So it's best just to do at least 2. At least only 5 items per se.
Right. And there are some fighting companies, and I'm gonna make Kokare and explain what he explained about. So in order for him to petition to make the next rank in his fighting company, regardless of what the minimum is for a Dragon Master, he has to enter another amount. So Kokare, you want to?
Right. So my fighting company, the War Dancers, they have a whole big fighting tournament process that you go through to get advancement within the company. They've added in also a process to go through and get advancement through the arts and sciences for people like me that are too old and beat up to fight anymore. So we can still get that advancement and still participate and still contribute. And up until 3 years ago, they actually matched with what was going on in the kingdom, and then the kingdom sort of revamped its requirements for tournaments, for ANS tournaments. And it turns out that, like the Dragon Master, you only get the 5 that we do for the Dragon Master, but for me, if I remember right, it's either 9 or 11 entries that I have to put in for my next rank in my fighting company that have to be scored, and I have to have feedback, and I have to have a minimum score and everything like that in them. So it's sort of it's become sort of tricky for some companies. And like when I ran the ANS at Coronation, I also ran into, I had someone fuss at me because I put a limit of 2 entries per category, and this person had 4 or 5 that they wanted to enter, and then they didn't enter any at all because I said 2 is good because I have no idea if we're going to get 5 entries or 150 entries. So I'm kind of trying to control the numbers a little bit for the first time, and this person didn't like that, but too bad for them.
Right. And while our Corpora does list what the Dragon Master qualifications are, there is a stipulation that the tournament runner can change those rules, but they have to give, I think it's 2 months notice beforehand.
Yep.
So always check with your tournament runner. It's good practice.
All right.
Is there a question real quick? Is there a practice, like a normal practice? How long are the tournaments announced, the rules announced before the actual tournament day normally? Like for instance, I know we have one coming up in like what, end of January, early February, whichever the next one is. When should we be expecting the rule set to be coming out for that?
So I'm still waiting on someone to volunteer for my ANS CRAT. And if we meet the if I have a CRAT in place and they're not changing the rules, it's basically, it's going to follow just the Dragon Master policy that's in the Corpora, or the guidelines that are in the Corpora. But if if the person that volunteers for the ANS CRAT wants to change the rules, they have to do it within the first week of December, because the event is in February. It's the first weekend in February, so it's cutting it close. I have a feeling we're not going to make a change at this point. Not a lot of willing participants after coronation. This lady Obscura, she set the bar real high, what it means to run an event and be an autocrat for an event. So I think some people are a little bit timid and afraid to have to step into those shoes. So we'll see.
How dare she?
So
Don't wear big shoes. They don't have that big of feet.
yeah, I know. I haven't been able to get into them. All right. So generally speaking, I want to go now into the actual the categories themselves, because I think that there are some things, and not every single one, but I want to talk about what do you do for Dragon. So Dragon, obviously, it's your art, your 2D art, your 3D art, it's culinary, it's bardic performance, it's brewing, it's written stories and poetry, and all of those things are different. So what my write-up for a painting that I did is not going to look the same in total as something that is a bardic. They're going to look different, and there are some key things that I think should be included. Obviously, we've talked about the materials and for culinary and for brewing, because brewing and culinary, you have to list those ingredients. But there are other things like bardic. It's you know, your write-up is, from what I've seen, it's I'm going to sing a song. Is it something that I wrote myself? Is it an original composition? Does it have lyrics? Have I taken a song that existed? I'm not going to do just karaoke, but have I taken a song and changed the lyrics to it to fit Amtgard? Those kinds of things. Those are the kinds of things that you want to include, but your write-up is going to look a little bit different. So I want to kind of talk and touch about what kinds of things, when you're doing art versus culinary versus bardic versus brewing versus written stories and poetry, what kind of things, and I'm going to look to our our more experienced people, what kinds of things are you looking for as a judge in the write-ups when you see this kind of stuff? And feel free, you want to raise hand, you want to just go. And I'm going to take the notes on this, because this is something that I've struggled with personally. So I don't have much of an opinion, but I'd like to hear it from you guys that have been in Amtgard for a while.
As far as bardics go, I know for me, because part of my background is SCA, so I'm looking for stuff that's like Amtgard sort of related or character related. Like if Gobo wrote a goblin song, be a prime example, or performed a goblin song because it suits his character, I'm going to give him more points. Because it's something that is related to his character. It's something I can see being sang around a fire. There was a performance I judged that was, the guy took the song American Pie and changed it to Rhino Hide and wrote a song about people that aren't taking their shots, but it was sung to the tune of American Pie. And major points, major creativity, and it was performed very well. Also, engaging your audience is a huge part of judging bardics. If you're just going to look up or look down at your feet, look up at the ceiling, look at the sky, and belt out a tune, and you're not engaging your audience, you're not really performing. So you're going to get points off for that. Same with readings, poetry readings, dramatic readings, performance like that. You need to engage your audience. That's what performance is by definition. So, you know, in your write-up, if you've never performed before, I need to know that. If you've never sang in front of a crowd before, I need to know that. You know, that stuff. If you altered a song, if you altered a story, like I've seen dramatic performances of stories that somebody's written regarding a role play they did in AmpGuard. I need to know that backstory so that I know what I'm looking at and listening to. If it's your first time ever doing it, I definitely need to know that. If you are a drama geek and you have a degree in theater arts, kind of need to know that too. You know, if that's what you do for a living, I'm probably going to like expect more from you than somebody who's never sang before or performed before. You know, all that stuff needs to be included in your write-up. But I definitely want to stress the like make it AmpGuard related, role play related, character related, and put it in your stuff. Or like a period piece. There are people that do filk and folk songs. Write it up. You know, this is an original tune from whatever. Or this is, you know, this is a traditional Irish tune from whatever. Put your own twist on it. It'll be acceptable. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
With Bardics, I struggle with judging Bardics. Is adding the lyrics or including the lyrics, or even including the words for the interpretive poetry or whatever it is, would that be acceptable?
If you think there's going to be a question on it, include it. So absolutely.
I actually had somebody that had done a bardic performance in a different language. And Kokera, I don't know if you remember that. We were at Eastwind, but it was done in a different language. And while the piece was well sung, they were on key, nobody had a clue what they were singing about. And having something that translates or introducing that translation and being able to feel if it's an emotional piece, put that in your write-up, especially if you're not going to be singing in the same language that everybody else is in. We've had people that have made up their own language and told stories in their own language. And it's like, I don't know that language. I'm going to need you to explain it. I'm going to need you to translate it. I'm going to need
a backstory.
Yeah, I'm going to need to feel something. And if you're not changing your vocal variety, if you're not emphasizing, if you're not showing anger and frustration on your face, and you're just rattling off words in a different language, I'm not going to know. So include that kind of stuff in your write-up, definitely. What other kinds of things are a little bit different within the dragon category that you might want to call out? And Vasa, I'm looking at you for maybe something along the lines with brewing, because I know that you're one of our mead guys. Yeah, I just called you out.
Sorry, I've been up and down with the dog. Honestly, with brewing, I haven't entered that many items into the brewing. I've entered a few, but not many. You know, one of the things that you do want to make sure is to let them know, you know, first off, did you warm brew? Did you cold brew? Your process is a big thing on that, especially with brewing, because you need to keep records on that anyway. You know, that's one of the few things that in my entries to come, it's going to be that's going to be a second page so that people can see the average alcohol and all that fun stuff. But with the, with dragon entries, you want to be sure that you let them know, the time that it took. I've sat down and done ANS projects that hand folded origami boxes that fit in boxes, and it was 10 boxes that each one fit in a different way. And yeah, it's all paper. And with that, one of the things that my first few ANS projects were origami, because it's one of my passions. And the judges were counting me off because I was just using white paper. And then I explained on my write-up sheet that the reason I'm just using white paper to do this is so you can see the shadows on it and the way that it's folded and the way that it looks without being distracted by the color. A lot of times with ANS, you can hide flaws with painting, with color, with, dazzling them with bullshit. Excuse my language. But I wanted them to be able to see the crispness of the folds, where the shadows laid whenever you looked at it and how it was supposed to look. And once I realized that that needed to be on the write-up, I started getting those dragons. One of the things that for me and in my belted family, I require that you do at least one thing that you've never done before for an ANS entry. So I don't really have a lot of repeat things being put in. I don't. It's gotten to the point where I've had to repeat some things, but I don't have a lot of them. And that's another thing that the judges need to know, is that, this is something, and we've already gone over this, and Belle, you're doing a great job at going over a lot of the stuff that I would have talked about anyway, but letting them know that, this is why I'm doing it this way. They do need to know that information. Now I got to go let the dog back in.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Anything else within that might be a little bit different within the dragon category? If not, I'll open it up. Do you guys have any questions about something that you might enter into dragon that you want to know what you should and shouldn't put in your write-up?
Can I just add too, it's not just brewing is also just not alcohol. You can do like a tea blend, list your ingredients, things like that for dragon. Coffees, beer, sodas, all that stuff. All of it goes into dragon for brewing. Because it's a beverage or an herbal remedy, things like that. But yeah, with prose, especially plagiarism, don't do it. Do not do it. You'll be embarrassed in front of everybody when they find out, and you don't want to get that reputation.
Didn't somebody get banned for plagiarism too?
As I say, and they will find out.
Yes.
Several people have actually.
Banned and award stripped.
Award stripped, and yeah. I will tell you that we have personal experience with that, because I won't name names, but one of us had a belted family member that went out and bought things and claimed them as his own work and submitted them all the way up to Olympiad. And he's banned from Amtgard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was up for knighthood, and they didn't find out until he was up for that knighthood for Serpent Knight. And they absolutely banned him from Amtgard, stripped every award. Not just his ANS awards, all awards.
Yeah, it's it's really sad and unfortunate that take credit for what you do, learn your craft. And it's especially in this day and age when so many crafters are out there on Etsy and stuff like that. It can't, I can see how it would be a temptation for somebody, but it's not fair to the person. Make sure you give credit where credit's due, especially if you're gonna, like, one of the digital, my complaints about digital work is it's one thing to have a tablet with a pen and you start to draw and you draw on that tablet and create something digital. It's completely different to take a bunch of different images from the internet and put them all together and make something really cool. You shouldn't be dinged for putting together a beautiful piece, but you also need to make sure that you give credit where you got those images, that they're not hand drawn and stuff like that. So, that's a good one.
Yeah. Also, like, say they want to use those images for something in our social media in AmpGuard, like your kingdom's like, I want to use this as a background for something or whatever. And you have not given that credit, because I'm a digital artist. And I will tell you, if I find out, I am totally going to file a takedown notice, and I will scream to high heavens, and I will get a lawyer involved. Google has taken down so many things that I've had to file complaints on, and they do it quick and in a hurry. So yeah, make sure you give credit where credit is due. And that also goes along the lines, if you are creating scrolls and using free fonts and you're downloading those, a lot of times in those packets that you do your zip files in, there's a little notepad piece in there that says, please give credit for the work. It's free and open source with that condition that you attribute that font back to the artist that created it, or that brush or whatever, so always do that, always err on the side of severe honesty rather than try to hide it, because you will be found out. There are enough of us out there that do a lot of work like that will know.
Okay. I hate this, but I cannot remember your name. Say it again? Your persona. Chelsea.
Sorry. I'm Cersei O.
Okay. I'll try.
No, that's okay. If I knew how to change it, I would, but this is my work Zoom. So we're just not gonna tempt the gods there. No, you all mentioned tea and brewing and things, and I had a question because that is actually something I've started doing almost professionally. I've registered the business and done all the health and safety things so I could sell tea blends I make, and I wanted to bring them to AmpGuard with me. And no one in our kingdom seems to do that. So everyone's just kind of like, well, you can put it in as a dragon. And I'm like, I'm not sure how.
Well, with that, because tea and brewing is, some people look at it differently. Some people will look at it as one area. Some people will look at it as an owl. Some people will look at it as a dragon. But I look at it as a dragon because it is more of an art than it is a science. I mean, it's a huge science, yes, especially when you're brewing alcohol. But getting the taste right, it's like cooking, so definitely go through with that. And one of the things with ANS entries, and I probably shouldn't say this with the region in here, but if a judge doesn't know how to judge something, they're either going to give it high scores or low scores, and normally, especially if it's something good to drink or eat, they're going to give it high scores, even if they have absolutely no clue what it takes to do it. So you didn't hear that bell, put me on mute, or unless I'm still on mute. But you definitely want to put in your write-up, this is the taste that I'm going for. I want it to have this flavoring. I want it to have this. With some of my meads, I have to say, I wanted to have this aftertaste, so it would pair well with this, or I wanted to have this feel to it or this coloring to it, because the color, the taste, the aftertaste, what it tastes like with other things, that's all stuff that the judges don't know that they're looking for, but they are. And you need to give them that knowledge. And if it's something that you're making to pair with something, say, I make a mead that goes great that pairs really well with a certain type of cheese. Have that there. And you don't have to make the cheese. You can just say, this is so you can taste it.
The way it's meant to be.
Right, the way it's meant to be. And if you make it, great. That's another entry, and I am all for doing themed entries, where one of the things I enter complements another thing, or it's all part of a larger project. I'm all about that. So, if you're doing tea and you want to do a cookie or a biscuit that goes with it, do that. And you write it in the write-up, 2 separate entries. If you make both of them, that's the more entries you have, the better. But in the write-up, say, I'm making it this so that this flavor in the cookie will complement this flavor in the tea. Or, this tea is supposed to be served warm, or this tea is supposed to be served cold.
So I'm afraid what's going to happen is I'm going to have to do like an entire tea ritual every time I present, because different tea steeps at different temperatures at different times, and like it's a thing. And like I'm not sure how to handle that either. I know that's not in the write-up, but like
actually you can.
Actually, it is.
It is.
Actually, you can include that in the write-up.
Yep, include it in your write-up that it's different. And if the person running the ANS will allow you to be there to do the seeping, then you absolutely go in there, turn that into a demo. That can be a bardic.
And
that's also a performance.
Yeah, turn it into
I
a
have
So that's one entry, but well, I mean, if you're doing like tea and a thing to go with the tea plus performance, you could do a write-up for the tea brewing and explain, the seep, that this tea requires this, and explain what you're telling them while you're performing it, but put it on paper too.
And I have seen ANS entries that was a Japanese tea ceremony. It was great, beautiful. They did it really well. That was the performance piece, and then they entered the tea as an ANS entry as well. And the more you're getting in there, the better you are.
Yeah, definitely.
So would that be like a bardic would have to be in character though?
Not necessarily.
Nope.
Okay. My first ever entry I made, we have like a local Assassin's Guild, and I made a box. And everybody was like, no, your presentation is really important. You have to do that. So like I had my little box, and I was using a bunch of my tea blends for like poisons, and I had my mortar and pestle and like oils and stuff. So I did a little video of like a full-on like assassination with my box. And everybody was like, that should have been a bardic. And I was like, what's a bardic?
Yep, it's performance. And that can also be, performance could also be instructional.
Okay.
People get
So, like, the
tied,
demo
like they get
itself
hung
could be
up on, I have to sing, I have to recite. No, it can be instructional.
And I
Absolutely.
actually did one of mine, it was a Dragon Master in 2018. And I actually did a food demo where I sat up and basically I gave the judges in my write-up, it was, this is what I'm doing. These are my ingredients, because they're going to taste it. So I wanted to make sure that my ingredients were in there. And I made it about why I selected the certain cheeses and meats for the sandwich that I had done these little pastry roll up things. And I did that. And then at the end, I served them. And I did not want it judged because it was a kit. So it's like all cold cuts and stuff like that. So I didn't want it to be judged for the food, but I did it as a demo as Bardic. And I mean, I'm in my garb, but I didn't do it in character. I just did it as me.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
That would just get really complicated because like one of my most popular teas is my Uncle Iro tea. It's jasmine and chilies and stuff. So like it's really fun, but like how do I explain that, you know, my little Greek ass is running around with jasmine and dried chili tea? Like
Well, you know,
trade
it, right. But like none of that is in place, I guess. Like
that's one of the beauties about Amtgard is no one can really tell you that this is not an authentic elven tea ceremony.
Which is why we do Amtgard and not a CA.
Yeah. All right. Godric, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I just want to add to that a little bit. The majority of my write-up is I use it as educating my judges. I am going into my write-up assuming that my judge doesn't know anything about what I'm entering. And that is especially important when you get into some of these more niche areas like your tea, like brewing, like most of your judges are going to know what to look for in a tunic, right? They know because we see tunics as judges all the time. But when you get into some of these more niche things, use your space as the write-up. As a judge, I have no idea what is a good tea and what's a bad tea. Like I've never experienced that before. I have no idea. And so if you don't explain it to me, I'm going off of, is this as good as my Chick-fil-A sweet tea? You know what I mean? Or is this as good as my McDonald's sweet tea? I don't know any different, right? So yeah, I know, right? It's killing you. So you should use your write-up space to teach me as the judge what is good and what is bad. And oftentimes as a judge, I will go and I'll check like what you tell me. I'll Google it real quick and make sure that you're not just lying to me. But use your write-up to educate your judges on what is good and what is bad. I've done this quite a few times where I go in and I assume the judge has no clue what I'm talking about. And I say, here is what you should be looking for as you are judging my item. You can see point A on here and see point B here. And you point those things out. So I would recommend using your write-up to educate your judges and definitely do the performance if they will let you, because I think I don't think that would hurt you any. I think that all that could do is help you. You'll get higher scores by doing your ceremony in front of the judges.
Agreed. Absolutely. And one of the things that I think I messaged you privately, but I don't know if your kingdom would. Ours would typically. And if anybody here that's been around disagrees, that's fine. But I'm regent right now until April, and I would let you do it. Is if you still have that recording where they said, hey, you need to do your Bardic. That should have been a Bardic. If you still have that recording, you should still be able to do a write-up and enter that. Just some kingdoms will allow it, some won't. Find out from your kingdom if they would. If the people are telling you that should have been one, enter it. See if they'll let you.
Something you should look into also, Cersei, is best of the best at March event in your kingdom is you get 15 minutes to present your item directly to the judges, and then the judges give you direct feedback. Like that is the format of the tournament is you enter one specific item and then the judges go from there. I think personally, as someone who's judged that tournament before, it would be sick if you sit down in our brewing. Here are 3 of my homemade teas. Tell me how you made them. Here's what went into it. Here's a cold, a medium, and a hot, whatever it is, right? Like blow my socks off and go with super complex things and do that as part of your presentation. And you could go really ham with that. And I think that tournament format might be really good for you compared to like a normal Dragon Master. And that's generally every March is when they do that at March event.
Are you saying I should assassinate the judge? Because I've heard I could put stickers on the bottom of the cup and
that would be really fun.
You're dead now.
Yeah. I'm not going to answer that question. It has been done. So I just posted really quickly. I do cakes. I do sculpted cakes, larger than life kind of cakes if I can. And my very first one that I entered into an ANS was at Puddin's Knighting, and nobody knew how to judge it. Nobody knew. It was just, wow, that's amazing. And looked at it, and it was like I got all these, accolades and stuff, but they didn't know, even though I had put in my write-up what to look for and the kinds of things to do, they weren't familiar with it. And luckily we did have somebody from Kingdom who went to culinary school and was able to come in and point things out, what they should look for and shouldn't look for and stuff like that. You're not always going to have that. I know if somebody submitted, if you had submitted a tea in our Kingdom, I drink it. My tea aficionado is I've got a cinnamon tea that I like without anything in it. I have vanilla chai tea that I prefer with a little bit of sugar and milk in it, but I can't right now, so I'm drinking it plain. But give me good old Lipton black tea any day, I'm happy. I don't know, like the Earl Grey and chamomile, and I don't know what the difference is. I just know tea is tea, and I want it to taste good. So for me as a judge, I would want to see things in your write-up like I chose this floral or this herb because it does this, and it's this, feel that tickle on your tongue. It's this herb that I did, and the little bit of heat that you're tasting, that's chili and things like that. And if you start out sweet and it ends up sour, or it starts out sour and it get those kind of notes as you're drinking it, absolutely. If it changes as you drink it, I know that Co-Care and I will drink some stuff and I'll be like, okay, yeah, this isn't that spicy. And then like the third or fourth one in, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's spicy. Now I need water. So, as you drink things, does it layer differently? Those are the kinds of things you'll want to put in your write-up. All right. That's been awesome. Dragon is such a huge, broad category. It's really hard to nail it. And that's what I was trying to say is, garb accessories, jewelry. They're run of the mill. If you've got some different techniques and stuff in there, but they're very similar. Owls, a lot of things, they're very similar. The techniques, the way you build weapons, the way you cover weapons, the way you paint weapons, those kinds of things, they're very similar. But dragon is so broad that I thought it was a good thing to kind of talk through a little bit. The other one that I have is very broad, is smith. And a lot of people go, smith, oh, that's making weapons. No, smith is not making weapons. Smith is your classes, your quest writing, your battle game writing, your tutorials, your demos. And I know we talked a little bit about Bardic being demos and tutorials. Can you be Bardic and Smith? Absolutely. They kind of, some of those things like your demos and your classes can go hand in hand. It's just a matter of, do you want to be judged on the content of what you're presenting? Then it's going to be Smith. Or do you want to be judged on how you're presenting it? Then it would, to me, that becomes a performance and a Bardic. Would you guys agree?
And I don't know if this has changed within the last few years, because the last couple of years I've been kind of inactive. But whenever you enter a category, Belle, is it saying I'm entering this as a dragon, or I'm entering this as a rose, or I'm entering this, or are you just entering an item and then the judge and then the monarch or regent decides, okay, this was a Smith credit, this was a Smith point, or this was an owl, or this was a dragon?
Usually it is the former. And I know that and that's kind of what Godric and I were talking about, touching on a little while ago, is the person running the ANS will set the categories, and then you decide what category your item fits into. But there are some kingdoms and some tournaments that they just say, enter your items, and then you choose what you want to do or not do at all, and not put it in a category. And then it,
Because I mean, with me, the categories have always been like 2D art, 3D art, garb, things like that. It hasn't been the awards that you're looking to get out of that item.
yeah, so we had the kingdom when I first started, we were ladder award based, and then Lorik, my knight, and Fiddles worked with Puddin, and they put together a proposal, and it went to all thing, and it changed, and it was just like you said, like communication was by itself, and it was a lot more in the weeds, detailed. It's more refined, and we found that people were kind of shying away from ANS for that, and we submitted a new all thing, I think it was 3 years ago, to reverse that. So we're back at the ladder level at this point. All right, Drew Vong, you had a question.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was going to ask Cocaire this. Do fine companies ever use Bargix and stuff, or not really? At least your fine company ever participate in Bargix or allow that?
Yeah, as part of ANS, yeah, they do.
Nice. I wonder how I can join yours in terms of like Bardic and your fine company, if possible.
That would be something for another discussion, because that's also based on ANS scores. So you would do an ANS for Bardig. As the fighting company he's part of does use ANS scores to elevate in rank as well as fighting.
Oh, that's neat.
But that would be a different discussion than this. So.
Oh, okay, thanks. Thank you for the class, by the way.
You're welcome. All right. So I don't have anything else on my list of agenda items or things that I wanted to touch on. Does anybody have any general comments or questions? I know that we're nearing our 2-hour mark.
Just I have just one sideline, because if you want just like basic information on the awards and what the criteria is, Amped Wiki has an outstanding awards link that gives you standardized. It's just generic standardized across the kingdom based on the Amtgard rules of play. If you are just like, I know with me, it helps me when I'm doing write-ups to look at the award that I'm going for, kind of, just to make sure I'm meeting the standard criteria. So I'll post the awards index link for that on Amped Wiki. It's got a wealth of really good information on what the generic description is for each award in relation, not just to ANS, but all awards in Amtgard.
Thank you, Sarah. All right. Anybody? Oh, go ahead.
The one thing that I would add is you can, like, if you do garb, for instance, everybody knows you cut the fabric. Everybody knows you sew the fabric. There are certain things that even people that don't do your talent, whatever that is, or they don't have an expertise in it, there's still a basic knowledge that they do have. And yeah, you should probably touch on that in your write-up, but you should also touch on things that are the more difficult techniques And you should probably kind of lean into those a little bit because they do let the judges know, hey, this person knows what they're talking about. I don't know anything about this, but this person clearly knows what they're talking about. So now I know what I'm looking at is probably what I'm supposed to be looking at. Like when I do my bows, I make bows. I've turned in tons of bows, and I realized just recently, probably in the last 6 or 8 months or so, that the reason I wasn't getting any recognition for it is because my write-ups came across as cut the wood, glue the wood, sand the wood, put a string on it, bow. What was missing were things like during the process when you're making the laminates to make the wood bows, to make the handles, and especially putting the limbs on, there is a very delicate balance between too much and not enough pressure when you're using the epoxy. If you put too much pressure, you'll squeeze all the epoxy out and the thing will fall apart. If you don't put enough, you leave air bubbles, and the air bubbles will stress and crack, and you'll snap the bow in half. There is a skill there that no one knows. Make sure those things are the things you focus on in your write-ups. The tricky things. Circio is down there talking about, these teas, and I'm like, I open the cabinet, I pull the little baggy thing out, I drop it in some hot water, tea. And then she said, I'm making my own teas, and I'm going, that must take a lot of acreage and some terraced land, right? Do you have like field workers? I mean, like, what's going on here? It's like your entire backyard filled with tea? I mean, or
I
is
wish I had a green thumb like that. No, I source and I dehydrate and
yeah, see, like dehydrating your own. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, with dehydrating, that's something you need to put in your write-up. That these are fresh ingredients that I dehydrate to make my tea. It's a temperature control thing. I use cold dehydration. I use heat dehydration, whatever kind of dehydration you use. I'm going to want to know that because I also like teas and blending and food and preservation. Going back to the garb thing though, good point. If you're using a Butterick or Simplicity pattern to make your garb, again, you might want to put that in there. But if you made your own pattern based on, I don't know, a Brinca dress or, fabric scraps from a dig somewhere that inspired you, I need to know that too, that you actually made the pattern or it's a free form. I duct taped my body, made a dummy to fit, got this cool fabric, wanted to make something, pinned it around the dummy until I liked it, and cut it out. And this is why I made the garb the way it did. I need to know that. If you use a Simplicity pattern, I'm probably not going to score you as high as the guy or the girl or the person that made their own pattern from scratch, or the person that just was like, you know what, I just freeformed it and made it to fit me. This is how I did it. I'm going to score you higher. Or make more allowances, depending. So that's important stuff that needs to be written up too.
Yeah, that I think part of that goes back to not taking credit for somebody else's work. And I am mostly, I'm gonna wing it. I just helped Gabo make his very first wrap pants and we winged it. They're lined wrap pants. I had no idea what we were doing because I've never made them lined before, but I winged it. And I'm very proud of him, and he did a great job. And I know wrap pants are like one of the easiest things you can make in Amp Guard, and but that's my kind of thing. My tunics and my dresses, they're all that you fold, you cut, you sew, you're done. Like none of this stuff that that I've seen that Alona and Lyndon turn out. Dawn's done some amazing stuff, and nope, that's just not me. I'll get by on the basics. I have no intention on being a self-proclaimed self-patterning garber. It's just not me. Now go in the kitchen and do a cake and play around with flavors and all that. Don't even. No, don't put that away. She's showing me a pattern. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You're about to do your first garbers. Nice.
Can I add something onto that?
Sure.
So in my write-ups, I put a inspiration tab almost, like I put, and then I'll list pictures, or if I've followed a specific tutorial on YouTube or something, I will put those there. So for instance, I made some Norman inspired garb a year ago or so, and I put pictures of the extant, Sicilian Norman. This was such and such, king's garb from here. It's the museum. Here is the idea, where I got my idea from here. And then here is my finished product. You can do this too, even if it's like a fantasy thing. I saw this particular thing in Lord of the Rings or on this show that I like, and here's the picture that I was going for. But I think it's also important to add, if you are following a tutorial on YouTube, just give that link. And if the judges care, they probably won't, but if they do care enough, they can go and watch it. But then in your write-up, say, here's what the tutorial says, and here is what I did to improve upon that. I think that is very important. I make a ton of woven belts. I love paracord and macrame belts, and I have a bunch of videos up on those. And when people will say, I watched Godric's video and I made the belt, and it's a very good solid belt, but then they say, but I disagreed with him here and did this. That's what I want to see, because it is innovating on what you have seen from other people. And if you are following a tutorial, put it in there. And if you do anything different than that tutorial, say why you did it and point it out, because that's bonus points in my book.
So I don't know if you guys are paying attention to the chat at all over here, but we're looking at Cersei's T webpage and very excited about some of her names and the how she's named them. So very cool, very cool. Cocaire, I don't know what you're doing to your microphone, but you are really muted, and it sounds like you're holding your finger over it.
It's just bad signal.
Yeah, no, he's sober, by the way, just so you know. That is sober, and I live with that every day.
This is how he normally is.
So, all right, anything else? If not, we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to say thank you, everybody, again for coming. I'm looking forward to seeing those of you who are in Kingdom. I'm looking forward to seeing your stuff. Don't forget, you don't have to attend the event. We want you to come, but you don't have to submit your stuff. You can have somebody bring it for you. Make sure you show them, give them pictures. If you want it laid out a certain way, take a picture, show them how it should be laid out. Make sure that they have your write-up with the item and things like that. I'm hoping that I'm looking at a whole bunch of you. I'm hearing people say I haven't been active in a while, that I would love to see some things that I've been seeing.
Hint, hint, Vasa.
I'm not calling him out. I mean,
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, beep, beep. Here comes the bus.
Also, if anybody wants to hit me up on Facebook, and send me, I don't know, write-ups for feedback or whatever, or I'm happy to do that anytime. If you're an AmpGarder, I am happy to help with anything like that. I've got years of judging experience, so let me know.
Sierra
I'm happy to help.
She is a walking encyclopedia when it comes to AmpGuard. Her and Vasa have been amazing. Every time I talk to them, I learn something new, and I love it. I just wish that my brain could retain as much of the information that they give me as I want it to. But yeah, they're very informative. and it's years of being around, but it's also being really good at what they do. So, anything else? So, Balto, you've been very quiet. Uh-oh, he's like, oh, wait a minute. She's calling me
Just
out.
taking it all in.
Do you have any questions? So are we gonna, what crafts do you do, or did you just wanted to hear it out? Like, are you an ANS person?
Yes, or I will be.
Okay.
I've been doing a bunch of things. I wove my first belt a few days ago, and I'm working on a tunic. I made a Ruana cloak. I've made a chalice tumbler thing, which I'm excited about that one. So yeah, just kind of dabbling in a little bit of everything.
Very cool. So hopefully we'll see some stuff posted from you at very near future. And
His
we
cloak is so neat.
really. So you're gonna have to share it. You're gonna have to share pictures of it in our event so we can see your stuff.
Okay.
It's a trap.
You what?
You said it's a trap.
Oh, no. We have my husband, Cocaire is Man-at-Arms. He is all, I'm going to be a sword knight one day. I'm going to be a sword knight one day. And I don't ANS. And then the next day he posted that he was making a pumpkin bread. And then like 2 days later, he was making pickles. And then he came over and I taught him how to sew a sword cover. I don't really know how to sew. I just make it seem like I do. And he came over and I taught him how to do his sword cover. And the entire time, all we keep saying is, yeah, because you don't ANS. Yeah, because you don't ANS. So it's not a trap. It is absolutely.
It is.
No, it's not. Shh, Vasa.
And I will be one of the first ones to tell you. Out of all of the knighthoods, Serpent Knight is the most hazardous belt you can get, because sword knights, yeah, they'll break a limb, they'll pull a muscle, wah wah wah. I've set myself on fire. I have had explosions in my house. I've
cut myself.
I have spots on my leg that will not grow hair and have not for the last 25 years.
He's encased himself in plaster and had to sit for hours waiting for somebody to come home and get him out.
Multiple times.
So you could, here's another hazard. You could end up with a room that looks like this.
Oh, I'm already there. It's my second bedroom, my kitchen, and my living room.
Yeah, so this is one of four rooms in the house.
Yeah, there's 2 rooms that look like that in the house.
3.
Serpent's
brain
also the worst on your pocketbook too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Crown's pretty awful too because you have to travel a lot. So it's pretty costly there too.
But I'll tell you, if you're looking for a challenge as far as ANS goes, this is something I've challenged my belted family to do at times. One day when you're out at the park, just walk around the park, find something, a stick, a rock, a leaf, something out in the middle of the park, and center an ANS project around that item. If you can do that, it can be so cool, and put that in the write-up too.
It could become an artifact.
I did a marionette that was completely made out of sticks that I found at the park.
That's cool. All right. Canary, I know that you're getting ready to move on from Winter's Edge to Blackspire. And as happy we are that you're going on this new exciting journey for yourself. Very sad to see you leave the ranks of the artisans of our kingdom. So
She
do you have
doesn't want us
anything
anymore.
Hey.
I
knew you were gonna say something.
So she can't pack them up.
Do what?
We buy Canary all the craft supplies, so she can't pack them up and she can't leave us.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that to her.
She's already been making like a crap ton of scrolls for Blackspire and just mailing it to them.
Who called me out?
Nobody. It's a little bird. Did you see that the person came into Zoom, said it, and walked right back out at the door? Did you see
I
that?
saw it. I saw it.
Shh, no, you didn't.
I was saying, if it's Tempest, she's in the next room. I can just go and like mute my mic for a few seconds and I'll be back.
No, it wasn't Tempest. It was Cocaire.
How dare you, Cocaire? I guess you were right. You did leave.
So scrolls, but you do other stuff. You don't just do scrolls. You're a Garber, aren't you?
Yes, I do Garb. I just recently started doing scrolls. Shoot, I've done all kinds of things. I've done leather work is not my favorite thing. I can do it kind of. I just don't want to do it because it's hard on because I have carpal tunnel and arthritis in my hands, and it's not fun when you're trying to do leather work.
And that's why she decided to do a whole scroll of leatherworking.
Yeah, Cocaire, do not shake your head at her, because if I remember correctly, that's why you don't tool anymore. So don't give her crap. How about you,
Anyway, it
Tempest?
was nice to meet everybody. I need to step away because I have not eaten yet, and it's
That's okay.
10 o'clock here. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sierra.
You're welcome, and thank you for the class. I actually learned stuff too, so thanks. Bye.
Bye. So, so Tempest, you said that you are an aspiring ANS person, or do you do ANS consistently?
Okay, so I realized I lied a little bit earlier. I forgot during during COVID, I did enter a Kingdom ANS.
Okay.
That was a different kingdom, but only 3 people entered. So,
one.
Yeah. So, but I have, other than that, I haven't done a Kingdom ANS, and I'm hoping to enter stuff into this next coming Dragon Master.
Awesome.
And have some fun with it.
Awesome. Looking forward. I'm really excited. This is our first Dragon Master since February of 2020 because of COVID. And this is only our second mid-reign. Yeah, second mid-reign. And the first one was a day event and didn't have room for Dragon Master. So we just did an online ANS thing. And I think a lot of us were waiting for those the War Master tournaments. We're waiting for the Dragon Master. So I'm very excited for this event. And I'm hoping that it can be successful like Coronation was, and get us back and go from there. And Sijin, we know that you're an aspiring Master Garber, and there is one in there, as Hayden has said. How about you guys? Did you any other questions, any things that we may have missed or you want to touch on about the stuff that you work on?
Can we volunteer Libby to be the ANS Krat since she left early?
No.
I'm down to volunteer her. I don't know her, but I'm down to do it.
No, Obscura actually, she didn't think she was going to be able to be here at all. So the fact that she came, she gets bonus points. But I do know who I am going to be talking to that was supposed to be here that didn't. And I'm not going to call that person out.
Not me.
No. Well, all y'all showed up. So, all right. With that, I'm going to say thank you guys so much. Have a good night and keep an eye out. We're going to be doing other kinds of classes. Basically trying to get people back to basics. And I know Cocaire is getting ready to do I don't know if it's going to be an online type thing like this, or if it's just going to be a written tutorial, but what are the Krats in our kingdom and what does it take to be one and what are they required? So that way, maybe people won't be so afraid about taking some of the Krat responsibilities. Hayden. But yeah, I'm very excited about where we're going. and lots of stuff planned for the rest of this reign. So I look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you guys from other kingdoms that came out. I'm so excited. Like that we and by the way, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm going to load this up. It will be in the event page. I don't know how that works, sharing it outside, but it'll be saved. It'll be something that you can go back and watch yourselves on video if you want to, especially those who like to giggle a lot during the meeting. And if you want to share it with your parks or other people that couldn't be here tonight, I'm welcome to it. And as always, if you guys have other follow-up questions that maybe you didn't want to ask in here or you forgot to ask, just reach out. If I don't know the answer, I will find somebody. Godric seems to be, I think he's going to be a valuable new resource to our kingdom once they're officially, I mean, he's already, but I think once he's officially in kingdom, I think that's going to be a great thing. I love getting perspectives from other kingdoms and other players.
We are a month out. I think December 7th or December 12th. One of those is the BOD meeting where we come up. So
awesome.
We're almost there.
Very excited. Very excited. Tyrant's Thorn.
Yep.
So is it all three of you are Tyrant's Thorn?
No, they so they're from the park like 30 minutes north of me. The Grim Garrison. So their park is the southernmost park in the Kingdom of the Rising Winds.
Okay.
And we will be the northernmost park in Winter's Edge.
Ooh, so I
So
hear
on
Inter-Kingdom
Saturday-
raid.
So on
Correct.
Saturday we go to one and then we leave and we go to the other.
Inter-Kingdom raid.
Yep. Yep, for sure.
Awesome.
And we plan on doing a lot of stuff together too. We have an indoor facility that we could use through the winter here. And so I think we're working on getting some joint
Winter fight practice.
fighter practices, but like
Yay.
we've got a big, like an industrial kitchen and a big area we can do our feasts in together indoors if we need to. So I think we're trying to work to be able to do both together.
I would love if our park had an indoor space with an industrial commercial kitchen and we could do some teaching, like some culinary classes. I would love that.
We've got a bunch of classrooms available too. So a lot of times in the past we've done like our, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, like our in-rain stuff. And so we'll have the fighting tournament going on in one section of the building, and then the other end of the building will have the ANS tournaments or ANS classes going. And then we get all the tables together and make it like a Viking long haul type thing to do our feast, and get
That's
the
cool.
flags behind everybody. And so it's a pretty neat setup.
That's awesome.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That
It's like I said, I
really-
joined right before the plague, so like I haven't gotten to do anything. Anything at all.
Right after, so
Yeah.
It is definitely, and I've never been to outside of, other than Clash of Clans in 2017. I've never been outside of my kingdom, and I would love to be able to go to other kingdoms and stuff. Cocair's gone a couple times. His night drags him around the eastern seaboard, going to different places. I don't. I've never been. Oh no, I'm sorry. We went to Neverwinter once for a park day.
Mhm.
We went to Neverwinter once right after when the pandemic first round kind of tapered out before it happened again. So yeah. All right, guys. With that, I'm going to wrap us up. Keep an eye out. We have other things going on. I'll be bringing my Bell Saturdays back, where I do cooking demonstrations and teaching. So I'll be bringing those back. We'll probably do one not this weekend, but next weekend. I'm going to have Gabo in the kitchen with me. We're going to teach him how to cook and how to take a recipe that takes an hour and a half to make and only actually takes you an hour and a half, not 3 hours. That's my goal.
And for him to not touch his face.
And for him not to touch his face. Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Who
So-
said that? 'Cause
It was Canary.
That's my face.
Hey,
No,
you can't call me
Canary.
out like
Yeah,
Ah,
no, Canary's been watching you.
I know she is.
Yeah. Yep.
Good.
Yeah. All right.
You
Good
might,
night.
Gabo, you might just have to invest in those disposable gloves, and then every time you touch your face, rip them off, put a new one on. Like some people just gotta.
No, it's just goblin spice.
Oh yeah, Goblin Spice. Nah, old man down there, Cocaire, has gotten me using a towel now, so I'm doing better.
So, all right, guys, have a good night. Talk to you soon.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.